The chapter begins with Jinwo's shadows clearing a dungeon, making his friend Jinho sad because he doesn't help at all. Shortly after, they go to a coffee shop to talk, in which Jinwoo explains that he will be out of town for a while, which makes Jinho think badly, thinking that they will never see each other again. But the protagonist makes it clear that he considers him a brother, while on the other side of the world, a mysterious hunter comes out of a dungeon, saying that he wants to return home. Shortly after, he is arrested by American agents who await the arrival of the hunter Wang, at the same time that the protagonist enters the supreme dungeon of 100 levels, beginning to defeat each enemy that crosses his path. His objective is to obtain the 3 items awarded by the 3 bosses of the dungeon, and with this, create the elixir that could cure his mother. On the other hand, Jinho lets his father know that he has already conquered 20 dungeons, so he proposes being the head of his hunter guild. However, his father knows of Jinwoo's existence, asking him to recruit his friend as a condition. After several days of defeating monsters and climbing floors, the protagonist finally reaches the 50th floor, where he has to defeat a giant orc, so while his shadows face the boss's soldiers, he has a strategic fight with the giant who has great speed, but after a great movement by Jinwoo, he manages to defeat him. At the same time, a tough interrogation develops between the hunter Wang and the mysterious man who turns out to be the protagonist's father. Upon learning of this, Wang tries to intimidate him by telling him that his son is dead. However, the elite rank hunter did not expect the superiority of his adversary, who ends up defeating him in no time, while Jinwoo manages to defeat the boss of the 75th floor, obtaining tools that improve his skills. In addition to obtaining a mysterious key, he leaves the dungeon feeling that he still needs more power to continue climbing floors, which gives him the idea of being evaluated again, in order to be assigned to missions with more experience, so the next day he decides to go to take the test. However, when measuring his power, it ends up marking an error, which means that the protagonist is now one of the 10 elite rank hunters in the country, causing commotion among the hunters in the room. Coincidentally, there was the head of a hunter guild named Choi, and the secretary Jonchil near the site, who upon seeing the protagonist pass by, invites him to join his guild, although Jinwoo leaves without giving it much importance. Shortly after, Beck also appears, and seeing Choi's presence, he realizes that he also knows about the events of the Red Portal. Later, Jinwoo meets Secretary Jonchil, who introduces him to President Gonhee, who after talking a bit, offers him a high position in the association if he joins them, since he needs him to have a power comparable to that of the 5 great guilds, which leaves Jinwoo thinking. However, he rejects the offer since his motivation to save his mother leads him to fight in the dungeons, instead of being in an office and rising in position, which fills the president with emotion, remembering his years of youth, retiring to have a few beers to remember old times. On the other hand, Wang is recovering from the humiliation suffered by Sung, thinking of a plan to get revenge on Jinwoo and his father. Later, Jinwoo searches on the internet for items to take to the Supreme Dungeon, but being very expensive and being of a low rank at the moment, he has no choice but to join a mission, working as a worker, waiting for the hunters to leave the dungeon to start working. Soon all the hunters, they begin to date. Then after seeing the 2 elite hunters of the guild, Choi and Cha, who almost notices his presence, he enters the dungeon with the other workers, who amazes his companions with his great speed. So when they finish collecting, they take a short break, during which the protagonist takes advantage to go defeat the boss of the dungeon. However, upon arriving at the site, the protagonist meets the beautiful hunter Cha,